I'm going to talk tonight about some organisations which came to be defined by the conversations they didn't have, and our journey to try and change that. If I put these organisations up, you'll see some big numbers and some familiar names. Loss of 20 billion market capitalisation, several hundred deaths, people went to jail on some of these names. If I gave you 5 minutes, you'd probably have time to jog them around and get to this place. Volkswagen, emission scandal. Bristol Royal Infirmary, 80 people died. Tesco, £250 million lost to their overstatement of profits, 2 billion loss in the market capitalisation. Wells Fargo, another massive corporate scandal. The list goes on. BAE Systems, a big bribery fraud. In Stafford hospitals where 400 deaths occurred. And these things happened, they had one thing in common. Every organisation on that page, tens if not hundreds of people knew about what was going on, but they didn't speak. They weren't able to speak. So what stopped them, and what would be the effect if we could change that? Incidentally, Tesco went around the block the second time with their horse meat scandal. But these things all affect reputation, they take management time, they destroy morale, they destroy your ability to hire, and they stay toxic for years to come. As I say, Tesco, a few years later, having had an accounting scandal, they had a horse meat scandal, so they didn't seem to learn. And it's not just at the macro level, massive problems for business in corporate losses. This happens at a micro level. It happens to us, it happens to our friends, it happens to our... So take bullying. Over half the workforce in the UK has been bullied, yet less than half of those people feel they've been raised. And it's even worse when you come to sexual harassment. Over 50% of women feel they've been sexually harassed in the workplace, but 1 in 5 of those women will raise that. That even occurs with barristers. We're talking about women who've spent 6 years being trained in advocacy, and only 1 in 5 can raise it when they feel sexually harassed. And that's our wives, our daughters, our friends, our partners. I mentioned the Tesco horse meat scandal. When these things happen, they don't just cause massive damage, they cause lasting damage to reputations that can't be removed. I googled Tesco and horse meat at the weekend. 374,000 results. This thing just galloped around. and galloped, and galloped, and galloped, and galloped. These days, if you don't get things right in your organisations, it spreads like wildfire. It's on Twitter, it's on LinkedIn, it's on YouTube. It just goes and goes and goes. And you can't then eradicate that. That will take Tesco 10 years to get rid of that reputational stain or something. Incidentally, Tesco again went around the block a second time. They tried to make light of this at a time consumers were incredibly worried about these things. 25 years ago, a guy called Sidney Yoshida talked about the fact that at the front line, 100% of things were known to frontline staff, but only 4% of that filtered up to senior executives. Now some people say, well actually that's okay because not everything's supposed to be known to senior executives and the frontline staff only know 40% of what's going on at senior executive level. But my point is, there's lots of information in organisations, in businesses, which is there, but it just isn't known and doesn't filter between the people correctly. We speak to organisations daily, and take Me Too and bullying and harassment. People go, yeah, I understand there's a problem, but we haven't got that problem in my organisation. People can come through my door and speak up readily. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. If you ask 72% of managers, say, I think I can be trusted by my staff. If you ask the staff, 36% say they trust their managers. So there's a complete mismatch, and you can begin to understand why these problems happen repeatedly. Same thing if you put 100 people in a meeting room. If 50 of those people, however good the idea they've got, they will find it really hard to raise. And that's just not just in businesses, it's in any social group. So 10 years ago, more than that, As Donald Rumsfeld, we all laughed a little bit at his, he had his known knowns, his known unknowns, and his unknown unknowns. But there was actually something slightly more serious in that. There's things in businesses and there's things in lives where we have a vague idea they exist, but we don't bother digging further. And then there's other stuff that we don't even bother to start looking for. And that's why bullying happens. It's why harassment happens. It's why problems systematically happen in organisations. So we set off as an organisation and we said, how can we change this? How can we bring different light to bear on this? How can we empower staff in organisations to speak up and yet still give management something useful? What we created over the last 4 years is an anonymous communications platform. We said, well, actually, one of the things that's stopping people speaking is just fear of standing out, fear of retribution, fear of losing their job, just fear of looking silly. So we built a platform where any member of an organisation can engage with senior management and they can stay anonymous as long as they want to. And we're continuing to build on that and say, well, what new ways can we bring to bear in organisations where the people giving the information feel comfortable giving it, but the people receiving the information get useful information out of it. And that's a challenge we live every day. So far we've got to 200,000 people with access to our systems. It's in 3 of the top 20 hospitals in the UK. It's in 60 different organisations. And it's been a really exciting journey, and a journey that I'd like to think Neil, my business partner, have been really proud of. But I didn't really come here today to do a pitch for WorkInConfidence. What I came to say was really, there are a number of lessons you can take away from this. I think first of all, none of us, whether it's in work or social lives with our customers, know quite as much as we think. Don't assume that you know things. Lots of people we meet, they actually start off not wanting to know what's going on. They're slightly afraid of what they might uncover. But it's really great when they find out, when you know about a problem, when you know what's going on, you can then turn around and solve it. There's the old adage about taking a customer who feels they've had a bad customer experience. And if you manage to connect with that customer, then they can and solve their problem. They can rapidly go from being a disgruntled customer to one of your most powerful advocates. The other thing is, if you reach out to people, it's surprising what they want to tell you. Most people don't tell you because you don't bother asking them in the right way at the right time. You know when you have that phone call with the telephone company and it really doesn't go very well, and then you get 6 emails in the next 10 minutes going, was this a good experience? You just hate it. Your job is to go and find new ways of engaging with people. As I say, it's not just in big businesses, it's in small businesses, it's not just with your employees, it's with your customers, it's with your suppliers, it's with your friends, it's with your family, it's in your communities. And if you're the council, it's with the people who you serve. Knowledge and understanding is the key to progress. Make sure that you have that key. Thank you.